New for 96. With your hosts, Kevin McCauley and Chris Nguyen.
On occasion, our listeners want to get some good consumer advice about the latest sedan. Mm-hmm. Sedans are all the rage, according to internet.com, aren't they? That's what Ford is changing their entire lineup to sedans.
They said they were going to only make sedans from now on.
Yeah, nothing but.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, my head really hurts.
You were attacked by a bird today.
Yeah. A sculpture fell on my head. I have this Curtis Juret sculpture in my bedroom. And
weird flex.
It's sitting on a tulip table next to my bed, and it was adjusted so it was by someone cleaning the house, and I moved it back, and the sculpture tilted over, and one of the bird's beaks pecked my head as it was falling, and it was bleeding.
Wow.
So now I have kind of a headache, but this whiskey should probably take care of that.
Yeah, that'll fix it. That's what the doctor would
prescribe. I am applying
anyway.
it directly to my head, or at least near the wound, but not quite on it. So that should be fine.
Keep dabbing.
Mm-hmm. Anyways. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Christopher.
How are you?
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of New for 96. The microphone, much like the guard for water fountains, was in my mouth.
I think I cut that bit out of the last episode.
No, why? Well, that's why I reintroduced it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. So, we haven't recorded in a second, which is a lie. We recorded last week. No, we didn't. We recorded 2 weeks ago.
It was, with Daniel. Disloven. Yeah.
What does that mean, do you think?
It's like the V is instead of an A. Like if you were to turn it, capital A upside down.
That's a little too clever for me.
I mean, it's like kind of, I think he was kind of forced by what was available a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just started a new, hidden Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, that is just, full of...
porn?
If you will. Tasteful nudes of myself. I sent you an invite. Thanks for following. By the way, you didn't.
It went to my spam.
Yeah, I guess. So you've really been generating the fake news lately, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Got
to keep up with the lamestream media.
Yeah. Well. So you've created a series of photoshops of cars that don't exist.
Yeah.
And it started out kind of inside jokey.
Yeah, well, normally it's like I would Photoshop something, I post it to Twitter, and just assume that 8 of my idiot friends would see it.
Yeah.
But then some of them spread a little bit.
Yes.
And then all these normies would get caught in the crossfire, and they would
ask if
is this real?
GMT 201 van with a BMW fascia is real.
Yeah. So it was like a Chevy Uplander with a BMW X7 grill and headlights and stuff.
Yeah.
And I posted it I think this is a weird direction for the new X7 to go. And a bunch of people were like, really? That looks like a crappy GM van or something.
Yeah.
A lot of people took it to be very literally. So then that kind of encouraged me.
Post some of these.
We'll post them on the Instagram.
But I think the last one that you did with the X4 Active X40,
I gave it the stupidest, most BMW name I could.
But here's the thing is that that one blurs the line between what BMW would actually do and just a joke, because what BMW does now is a little bit of a joke.
Well, so I'll backtrack just a moment, because I did after that BMW one, I think someone was like, oh, you should, what if there was a Saab of the GM, we have a kind of joke with some friends about this very mediocre minivan that GM made, and there was the Terraza and the Uplander, and it was the last minivan they did, and no one bought them, and some people bought them, but they were very ugly and stumpy looking.
Yes.
And so it's what if there was a Saab one of those, which is conceivable that it could have happened.
Right.
And
yeah.
so I photoshopped.
Saab died.
Yeah.
Every GM, there was a GM version of new Saabs are based off of just standard.
It's like they weren't even really trying.
No, yeah, like it was like the last 97X. The 97X was based off of a Trailblazer,
Yeah.
like whatever the platform was for that. But
Yeah.
anyways,
So I took the grill from a 97X and put it on a Buick Terraza and changed the color and I worked pretty hard on the lighting and actually changed the wheels in Photoshop, and I posted it like as if it was a Swedish market only vehicle, and I said
Yeah.
oh, do you think this would have saved Saab if it had been worldwide instead of just in the Swedish market? And a bunch of people really
Kevin,
latched onto this.
you are a published automotive journalist, and they trusted you.
They did, yeah.
And now you'll never earn that blue check.
That's true. So
Off the list you go.
So I was looking for something, and I found a picture. I thought it was pretty remarkable that in 2007, Audi actually had like a Q5 Cabriolet, like real
honestly
concept
thought
car.
that
Concept
was
car.
when you, like, I don't know if you reposted that or
I tweeted it because I found pictures. I was
tweeted it.
searching for something else, and it came up in Google, and I was like, "Is this real?" And it was like enough pictures,
and
and I forgot about it. Like I'm sure I saw it at the time.
I thought that was one of your Photoshops.
Yeah,
like,
well,
at
so
first.
did Daniel. Daniel Sloan was like, "Is this one of your stupid Photoshops?" And I'm like, and I was just like, "Just watch because there's a BMW version coming." All because of his tweet. It was aimed at him.
Now
And
yeah, now we don't know what's real, Kevin.
we don't know what's real. And
So-
I wanted to give the BMW X4. I wanted to give it the dumbest, most BMW name possible. So we brainstormed.
But here's the thing: is that like you brainstormed, except that you took the BMW formula and you made and Daniel Golson applauded you for using all the terminology correctly, all like 5 or 6
So
words.
what was the name? I think it was keep in mind it's an X4, which is their coupe SUV, small one,
yep.
based on the X3. It was the X4 convertible. So I said BMW X4 Active Roadster. That's one word, capital A, capital R, M40i, and then I said concept, which you rightly pointed out they wouldn't do.
M. Yeah, I think
M40i.
okay, yeah, you did it right.
Yeah,
Okay.
because initially I said X4M because I thought my source image was the X4M because
you were
I
wrong.
don't care, it wasn't, and
Yeah.
I'm unable to tell the difference. I'm very proud of that.
But you were corrected
I
by
think I was corrected by Daniel. I think I was corrected by Daniel Sloan or
no
someone.
Golson. I think Golson
Maybe.
corrected you.
What are you doing?
I'm this every time I move the mouse, our list of topics moves further off screen, and I don't know how to get it back.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So that was like the most accurate one that you have ever made, and
I think the Saab one looked pretty convincing, just because it was mediocre.
This is true, like kind of, but that's exactly what the 97X basically looked like. It was like a Saab face grafted onto
Yeah.
a standard GM truck body.
Right.
So this was in line. Like maybe it would have had like that wraparound rear glass that Saab wagons and SUVs.
The sport combi.
Yeah, the sport combi. You could have done that. Oh, you could have made it. Okay, is it dumb to make an Uplander coupe with sliding doors?
that's
With
a good
sliding
idea.
doors somehow still.
This is a short wheelbase coupe.
Yeah,
This is a good idea.
I mean
This is a good idea
it's gonna look like an Aztec.
because
but
Golson would really hate this,
yes, he would.
and that's the most important
And
thing.
isn't that the goal? So you were just at Monterey Car Week.
Yeah, I've got a little bit about this.
Yeah?
I
A
went
bit
to-
like, is it going to be like a stand-up routine or what?
I mean, you wouldn't have put this brick wall behind me if it wasn't.
Nope.
No, I've got a couple things because it's not really one topic. It's like 10.
Yeah.
But Car Week happened, and I was there shooting for Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out to San Francisco, and it was a great event. I was in San Francisco for a couple days, shot the Genesis
Yep.
G70 like around Twin Peaks. Like I actually got up at dawn and actually
Yeah.
like lucked out with like amazing
You spent,
sunlight and weather and everything.
spent the week with friend of the podcast, Jeff Jablansky.
That's right. Jeff, by the way, like he needs to come on, and he's got more characters.
He's got voices.
He's got
voices.
some good ones.
Well, you thought this was a car podcast, but
No, it's car related. But they did like a private tour of the SF MoMA, which I shot. I was there like shooting the the guests of Genesis, like taking that in and the executives and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And then went down to Monterey. So Car Week, because I'm not even sure if you're like entirely familiar, because it's just a lot of it just seems like a lot of cool cars in this one concentrated place.
Like the banner events that go on.
Yeah. So it started in like 1950 or something. I think I made a note with the 1950 there's a concours and there was road races at Pebble Beach, and then I think there was some deaths or something. So they built Laguna Seca Raceway in like 56, and then they started having the races there, and then it's become this whole thing where dozens of events have spawned around it, and people go there, and it's very insane.
Monsanto Laguna Seca or whatever 50s kind of brand. What is a 50s brand that would have been attached to that?
Acme. It was the weird thing about Laguna Seca is it's like completely surrounded by army land with live munitions like in the ground. Like it's like, do not go.
Well, that adds to the challenge.
Off. Yeah, I mean it's surrounded by that. It's all fenced off. Like you wouldn't wander accidentally into a live minefield, but if you crossed a fence, you would.
Oh, excellent.
So many events. It all kind of leads up to the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, which is my least favorite event.
Yeah. Well, it's just like pristine, like immaculate old cars.
Old like pre-war cars and stuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate and
there's nothing wrong with it.
I appreciate the craftsmanship and just how unique they are and how you'll never see them anywhere else like this. You'll never see them like this, but it doesn't feel like it's for me. Like I have so little knowledge about them and so little connection. So when there's a row of like Muras out there as like a special class, I'm like, ooh, finally something for me, like something I can appreciate.
Yeah, but like a Duesenberg 69, whatever that might be.
Right.
Like, well, I can admire it as this neat, complex, like kind of steampunk design. I have no idea how to tell that between that and like a 40s, 30s Bugatti or something, for instance. But I would actually like to, as soon as I fill up my head with enough useless information about cars that I like, I will move on to that territory.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely would like to have more of a connection to that. It's just hard to retain it if I'm not like
the pedantry involved with that might even be like far worse than the stuff that we're into.
I think we're getting away from that. I think it's just like appreciate them now. It's just as what they are, and I think it's such a dwindling. It doesn't seem like it when there's 5,000 people on the lawn at the Concours, ogling these things. But I think it is such a small group of people that really like appreciate those cars that it's like, oh, if you're into it, like, I think it would be.
It's probably not universal, but I imagine that there is a certain age demographic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this whole thing, the whole week. It's old people and like teenagers with cameras.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It is like but so for these few days, it's like a fantasy land where, because growing up as a kid, I always loved, I know you always loved your Toyotas and things. I always loved Ferraris and Lamborghinis, like of that era. I don't really go nuts for modern stuff these days, but when I was a kid, like that was I just loved the design, the appeal, and everything. And I would always, I continue to move throughout the world where I'm like, maybe at the next intersection there will be some random red Ferrari parked there. And when you're in Monterey, it is.
Paralleled your interest with my interest in Toyotas. Like, ooh, did you see that Tercel over there? Pristine.
No, because you go out of your way to say how you're like not interested in supercars and stuff. But I've always just
you're
loved
mistaking someone else in our group chat.
Okay.
But also true. Yes.
I mean, I've just always been drawn to like exotic cars in that sense. Currently, not as much, but
one of my dream cars when I was like 12 was like a 456 GT.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great.
The
one with the GM 3-speed automatic.
Yes.
But yeah, for those few days, for these like 4 days around Monterey, it is around every corner is something insane. Like seeing two F50s driving down the street or whatever.
Totally. Well, just that they're street parked and you like almost as if you're living in this fantasy land where like cars that should be hermetically sealed are just street parked.
yeah, people ship their stuff out there and drive it around. And so the first, when I got to Monterey, we had there was a Genesis drive down to Half Moon Bay, shot a bit of that, had lunch, and then I went down to Monterey in a lot of traffic.
Yep.
Immediately I went downtown. I had to go to dinner later, but I went downtown and I had to see the RM auction so I could see the McLaren F1 that was being auctioned, which has the high downforce kit and the LM engine. It was that gray one at the RM auction.
Ooh.
So I saw that. So that's the 11th F1 I've seen.
Okay. Did you get the chassis number?
Yeah, it's on another list, but I think it's number 18.
Okay.
But
Kevin, if you do not know, keeps track of every McLaren F1 chassis number that he sees so that he knows which one he has seen. Because there are only, how many?
106.
106 street cars.
Okay,
road
well,
cars.
you'll know who's crazy now because not 5 minutes later,
Yes.
it paid off because I was walking back to my Nissan Frontier rental car.
Yes.
And in one of the most surreal moments of my life, a white McLaren F1 with the high downforce kit just up is coming towards me. Like I'm on the sidewalk near an intersection, and it just drives down. And then the most bizarre thing is it almost comes to a complete stop right at the corner I am. And I realize after this that he was maneuvering through like the gully in the intersection. He was slowing down to take just the crown of the road.
Oh, wow.
At low speed because this is the high downforce kit also.
Yeah.
So
the bits are like close to the ground.
Yeah, so it's got the big splitter and everything. So he makes the intersection and then just continues on. But he had come to a complete stop almost right by me. And I was like, oh, that's number 14. That's actually the second F1 I ever saw. And actually, I do have a story about that car, which is that my friend Ryan, who I did visit later in the week, he used to work at Laguna Seca. And at this same RM auction, that car was auctioned in 2006.
Yeah.
And it was yellow, and it didn't have the downforce kit.
Yeah. Oh, so it was added.
And yeah, so it's very common with a McLaren F1 when they change hands, where you send it back to McLaren and you say you could basically order it like you were ordering it new. Yeah. Like I want it to be green with this interior. Yeah, I will come to the factory. You'll fit me for the seats. I'll pick this.
They'll strip it down. Basically,
they'll just refit it like new for you.
That's crazy.
I mean, you're already paying enough for the car. It's already making $500,000 a year in your garage.
What's nuts about that though is just that McLaren will do this. I mean, obviously for a price, I'm sure, but you're not paying McLaren for the car. You're paying like a private party or a dealer or whatever for the car, and then you can send it back to McLaren. This nearly 25-year-old car. Yeah. Back to McLaren, and they will work on it as if it were a brand new McLaren being sold and customize it like accordingly.
Yeah, I mean that's what they've always done. Insane. Like they're the best people to touch these cars.
And yeah, they will break out their compact Presario laptop,
Fraser's computer,
and tune it accordingly.
But I mean, the car probably earns $500,000 in appreciation a year,
even though it costs you. What was the figure from that one? I think it was
a video. Yeah, it was a video a couple of years ago. It was a large amount just to do basic things like get tires or a fuel cell. Yeah,
basically just because the fuel cell expires, which I guess they all do, but also just the tires obviously don't last, and so anyways, we won't get into it. But but 2006, so the car probably was $8 million then, something like that.
I mean, it might have been 5 or 6. It was significantly less.
Already astronomical, but now
we'll find out when I edit this. I'll look it up because it's probably in the archives. But so that car, the following year, I lived in New York and I went to a Concours on Long Island, and the same car was there, and it was in its current form, which is white with the high downforce kit and everything. And the driver opened the door, and Lewis Hamilton had signed the door jamb.
Whoa.
Because Lewis Hamilton was a rookie then. And now he's like one of the greatest of all time. So that was pretty prophetic. Cool. So it's very cool. But yeah, a lot of cars around. I made it out to Laguna Seca, which is probably my favorite place.
Had
in
they
the
taken
universe.
down your logo? That
They
you
have
had
taken
designed?
down all the logos. They even I've never seen a place so aggressively manage the geotags. So so you
really?
cannot find a geotag that's not on Instagram. That's not
WeatherTech.
WeatherTech Raceway Floor Mat Central.
I mean, they paid like a good $1,000 for that. So
Their deal, from what I know, is that their support level is not nearly what Mazda's was.
I am not surprised by no measurable like metric. I'm just not surprised for some reason. So
They have the money.
I mean, clearly
Their owner bought a GTO for $70 million
Jesus.
last year.
Yeah, I mean, but they bought the naming rights to an entire racetrack. But yeah, that's a shame that they're not that involved.
I mean, I do think it does, not having a manufacturer tied to the track maybe opens up the track to other opportunities with other manufacturers. Like, you're more likely to have Lexus, Lexus is the car partner, so that's a bad example. You're more likely to have another car manufacturer come in for events.
Sure.
If it's not,
because they don't have to
so
advertise
tied with
it
Mazda.
like as whatever a BMW event at Mazda Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense.
But there was some EB110s. Saw an SLR on the road.
Nice.
One of the coolest cars was the Zonda C12 at the Concours. It was on the concept lawn, and it was because it's the 20th anniversary of the Zonda.
Yeah.
And the Zonda is just one of those cars I just never thought I would see in America because they were never sold here.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of the Huayra. And then
I'm not either.
I saw a Zonda 2 years ago, and I had to write down the name.
Yes.
It was the 2017, so like 6 years after they stopped making the Zonda, they made a Zonda called the HP Barchetta. And I always think of like there's like a line in Pulp Fiction where he's like, oh, what do you think about Trudy? She, you want to hang out, get high? And Vincent's like, which one's Trudy? The one with all the shit in her face? And he's like, no, that's my wife. But that's that Zonda that I saw. It was just all this shit all over it. Like it had wheel spats and little things attached to it all over. It's very, very bad. But
Zonda's.
But the base, the normal pure one, like the 99, it was so cool looking.
That is very cool. Actually, that one
exciting
is
to
very
see.
cool. And then when they moved on from that to just trying to top themselves, it did not really work
There's
out.
a taste barrier that I just can't get past with a lot of this stuff. But it was exciting to see that. That was cool. What else did I see? The two F50s. I saw a new Boxster Spider.
Oh, cool.
I saw that new Yellow Bird.
Yep.
And an old Yellow Bird driving around.
Yep.
Many Koenigseggs and Huayras that are not for me personally. I saw the Roof CTR3s.
Nice.
I saw the Carbros Enzo kit car, which was the coolest thing.
Yeah,
If the Carbros YouTube channel is very hilarious, and seeing this car, it was the most exciting thing.
Yeah, that is.
It was so cool. I drove past it and I like gave him a thumbs up, and he laughed.
Yeah.
It was the guys.
Very nice.
And Porsche brought to Laguna Seca. So I went to Laguna Seca. I saw Dave, who works for Porsche PR.
Yep. That you just saw a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Porsche brought a 99 GT3.
Wow.
96.1, which we never got. And they were just driving around. It had the Stuttgart plates.
Whoa.
And they were just driving it to and from the track.
Oh, like not on public roads.
Yeah, on public roads.
Oh.
But I think it's just like
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a Pro Drive Ferrari 550, like the Ferrari 550 that competed, like the type that one of the ones that competed at Le Mans was there as like just now it's like a track day car, and it's so cool.
That's cool.
It's incredibly cool. I posted it to our Instagram, and then the Citroen BX4TC that Daniel was just talking about. I don't know if it was the same one, but there's not a lot of them. But it was auctioned at the Gooding auction. Yeah. I went to the Gooding auction on Friday night, saw some cars. A lot of the sales were down. A lot of everything was kind of down.
Really?
Like maybe 15-20%.
Damn.
This car, which was estimated at $80,000 to $110,000, went for 61.
Oof. Yikes.
And so it was a good time.
That's cool. I like the idea of this as, I mean, it's many events strewn together, but because when we go to events, it's usually very topical.
Yeah.
And this is just everything and everyone, and it's just all in one place, and it's car heaven basically.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everything is there.
Yeah. So Genesis had rented, they for the past 3 years, evidently, they've rented a house that's like maybe like a half mile from Pebble Beach or like a quarter mile from the actual like entrance.
Yeah.
Which is really nice because
Yeah.
you could go there and park because everyone, usually you take buses and shuttles. And
Yeah.
every year in the past, this is like my 5th Pebble Beach. It always takes like an extra hour longer than you think to actually leave because you don't know where the right bus is going to actually be and stuff. So it was kind of cool to just park at this house with this beautiful view and walk to the golf course.
Yeah,
that
that's
was
pretty cool.
nice. It was very cool.
It's like my Luftgekühlt.
Yeah, exactly
parking,
like that.
Luftgekühlt.
Exactly.
Yeah. I parked in Patrick Dempsey's space.
So Pebble was Sunday. I shot Genesis. I will say they brought the Mint concept, which was really cool to see. And I got to hang out with the designer whose name's Arseny, and he's a Russian and he lives in Germany where their design studio is.
Wow.
And he was really cool. And we would just like, shoot the shit and talk about car designs. And he was showing me, I don't want to give too much away. Maybe I'll bleep his name. No, it's already known. I don't know. I won't repeat things that he's talking crap about. He would show me a car like at the Quail. He's like, yeah, I see like this aspect. This looks good from the side, but then when you look at it from this angle, it's very not thought out. And I would be like, I don't know if I would notice that. It's not just a design mind, but it's like a surfacing mind where it's designers are looking
3D.
For slightly different things.
It's 3D, which like, you and I, we work in kind of a 2D environment, at least on the graphic design side. On the interior side, I do work in 3D, but I think cars are just so different.
Right.
Yeah.
He did tell me that in Europe, Volkswagen has some facility in Barcelona, and they like every month will ship like all these full-size car models to a courtyard in Barcelona where it's always sunny, or not Barcelona, in Spain, and they'll have all their designers in Europe like just come out there to like look at them.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then I was a total jackass to a security lady at Pebble Beach.
Amazing.
Not
a surprise.
Yeah. There was a bag check, and I had gone in. Here's the thing, because we had gone really early. So there was a bag check, and I didn't get checked initially.
Yeah.
So then I had left to shoot more pictures of the Mint concept, which was on the Pebble concept lawn. And I come back, and she's like, I need to see your bag. And I've got my backpack, and I've got 2 cameras like over my, like around my neck. So I have to take off the cameras and all this stuff. And I was just such a jackass. I said I opened the flap on the camera with the memory card. I was like, oh, do you need to see in here too? And she just like went with it, and she was like, well, I don't think that's enough for a Dillinger, so I think that's fine. And I was like, oh my God, I love this lady, because she was just riffing with me. Like I was so horrible.
Also, it's a Derringer.
Whatever. She probably said the right thing, and I probably made a note of the wrong thing.
Because
I didn't realize you were such a gun fanatic.
I am not, but like I hate guns, but like a Derringer is the only thing I would ever consider, because it's the only thing I could probably handle. It's a pearl inlay revolver that can fit into into my girdle, into my what is the thing around the garter?
Holster.
Around my garter.
Oh yeah.
So,
So
you have to see her manager, as you do at every restaurant.
I mean, it's the only way to ensure that you get good service, as far as I'm concerned. So at Pebble Beach, I actually learned a little bit this time about how the judging works and everything, because one of the assignments I had for Genesis was their designer named Sang-Yup Lee. It's a very interesting story, because he came from Korea and worked for GM and designed like the 2010 Camaro, and designed. Then he went to Bentley and Volkswagen and designed I think the Bentayga and maybe the new Continental. And he now is leading Genesis.
Oh wow!
And he was an honorary judge, and they have 50 honorary judges.
Oh wow!
I think it's 50. They introduce them all, and it's like really So I usually don't pay attention. I'm usually gone by the time they do this, because I usually go for the morning and take off. But I shot pictures. So I shot pictures of him judging, and then hit the announcement where it's like he's the judge. So it's a really cool honor to be a judge at Pebble Beach, and he was really excited to do this for the first time. So I got photos of him judging. He was tasked with judging a section of Zagatos, which was very cool. There was like a Lamborghini Zagato that looked Ferrari-esque from the 60s. That was really cool. So it was great. So he told me about, he was very friendly, very nice. And he told me a little bit about, how it works. Like there's 20 groups of judges and they each pick a winner. And then all of those winners are nominated to be the overall winner of the event. So, there's a winner of the Zagato category and then that could potentially win overall. So they revote on that. So it was cool. But some of the judges, because I watched from like the very front center to get pictures, I watched like them announce all the judges. Yeah. Mark Webber, who I saw around, Nick
Mark
Mason.
Webber.
Yeah, Mark Webber. Nick Mason, Kazunori Yamauchi, who's the designer of Gran Turismo, the creator. Gordon Murray, obviously, we'll get back to that. Sang up Stefano Domenicali, who was he was the head of Ferrari Formula One team for a number of years, and I think now he might be at Lamborghini. Right into the mic there. Steven Winkleman, who former president of Lamborghini, who now works for Bugatti. We might be able to get him on the podcast.
Wait, really?
Jeff.
My God.
Valentino Balboni and Ralph Gills, who I had a nice conversation with.
Oh, you really? He follows you on Instagram.
Yeah, I told him that. He was like, we had a quick exchange. I said hi, and he said he loved my page and liked my work and stuff. And so
sorry, I meant to say he used to follow you on Instagram.
Oh no, there's someone else I could talk about that's the case. But I saw Shaheen, our listener.
Oh yeah.
I saw Steve Ewing very briefly, and I saw Tom. Testarossa Tom.
Oh, Testarossa Tom.
I was actually boasting about this the whole time because I didn't realize his Testarossa was actually in the Quail. It's extremely prestigious.
What? That's so cool.
It's so cool. I mean, there's no other car. There's no other car that's been in Radwood and been in the Quail in the same year.
And we drove up with him.
Yeah,
in a convoy.
Coolest guy.
He has the Monospecchio.
Yes, he has a single mirror Testarossa.
Yeah.
Cool as hell.
Very cool.
It was in the Quail, and so he had a very cool week. We were touching. We kept connecting a little bit and trying to meet up or something or get a beer, but it was pretty crazy. I did see him at Pebble and we talked, but he was having I was having a pretty good week experience. Yeah. Just coming in, getting to go to the things. Yeah. He was living an entirely different experience where he was at everything and had a car in this and was probably in a different circle of fun. But so it's good on him. That was cool. So
that's very cool.
It was great to see him at Pebble. Great dude. Just really cool. So we'll have to talk to him and meet up with him and get him on here.
A mysterious stable of incredibly cool cars. And there's suddenly a new cool thing.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah. So 5 seconds before I saw Tom is when I saw Gordon Murray. Mm-hmm. So I had brought.
I
brought the radio delete plate, which is very much the ethos of Gordon Murray. Now I know I don't have a McLaren or anything that Gordon Murray has any connection to, but I decided I've gotten my photo with him twice.
Yep.
He's like my ultimate car industry hero. Of course. And I thought I'm going to have him sign a piece of my car. Yeah. Well, it was actually I bought a new radio delete plate for this purpose and a silver Sharpie. And I just happened. So I saw him twice walking around and he was judging. He was working. I was like, I'm not going to bother him. So then the third time I see him, he's walking down a long road back to the lodge. Yeah. So I was like, and he's walking. He was walking with someone, not even talking, just walking. Yeah. And so I walked over and I said, Mr. Murray, can I bother you for a second? He was like, of course. He was so nice. And I said, could you sign something for me? And I pull out of my coat pocket a piece of this interior and a silver Sharpie.
Rectangle.
It's a plastic rectangle and a silver Sharpie. And I said, please sign right here. And I said, congratulations on the success of the T50 and everything, which is new supercar. But I was on the fence about actually doing this. Yeah. But just a couple days before the event, there was some news about the T50, which is his new McLaren F1 successor car. Yeah. And he had said, the quote, he said, the gearbox is a 6-speed manual. It was going to be a paddle shift at the start. I thought there was probably not many people who wanted a manual, but actually a lot of buyers for the T50 drive old manual Porsches at the weekend. And so I was like, I feel like there's like some connection. He's had
Yeah.
911s.
I'm
He
sure.
actually wanted the McLaren F1 startup to have a similar 911 startup sound quality. They actually designed how the firing order is
Oh, really?
on start based on that.
Interesting.
I maybe we'll find that. But yeah, so that was extremely cool. So he was extremely nice. I think he was a little surprised. And so next time I see him, I'm going to say, hey, I'm the guy that had you sign my
Radio delete. plate.
radio delete plate, which he famously didn't put a radio in the McLaren F1.
Yeah.
It had a CD changer,
Yeah.
no radio.
Yeah.
So that
Light
was
the lightweight like Kenwood like CD changer.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this cord is stuck here. Oh, anyway.
Oh
So
my god.
at Laguna Seca, I did have a weird anecdote with very cool anecdote with this lady. She was really drunk.
Yep.
And she was this middle-aged lady, and she's like, you should learn about, aren't you interested to know more about this Jaguar? And it was this like, perfect E-type race car.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. And she's like, this is my brother's car, and he like came home from the hospital in the back. Like I was drawn to the car because the rear hatch was open. Like
Yeah.
you know how it opens to the side, really cool.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
so the hatch was open. It's up on jacks and stuff. And she's like, my brother came home from the hospital with his parent like in the back. In like a car seat in the very back
rolling around
of
like
this
a
E-Type. Yeah,
a
rolling
log.
around. And she said that he rode in the back as a kid, like across the country and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the car's been in the family for 3 generations, and
Yeah.
now he's racing it. And
That's cool.
it was really cool. It was super interesting. She was wasted.
You make it sound like she was holding one of those like plastic flutes full of alcohol.
Or the like 4-foot plastic margarita.
That's the one,
thing.
yeah.
Basically. So I think I was in. I went to the Porsche hospitality. Dave was like, "Oh, go in and get something to eat." So I walk in and I see Jorg Bergmeister, who is one of the factory drivers for Porsche. They won Le Mans this year in
Yeah.
the 911 RSR, and it was the weirdest thing where I've never met the man, but I've like seen so many pictures of him, and I've seen him at various things like this, and then I looked at him with instant recognition. Like we were old friends. Like from across the room, I looked at him, and he looked at me like, and I think he must have thought like, oh, that guy knows me. I should at least pretend I know him.
Yeah.
And he waved at me,
man.
and I waved back, and that was it. It was a weird
That's
moment,
so
but
funny.
it was so weird.
I know people who are really good at that, and this is kind of a side note to this, but one of my favorite Jeff Goldblum stories is that there was this guy who was at a party, and his friend knew Jeff Goldblum and decided to introduce them. And the guy was a writer, and Jeff Goldblum walks up and is like, they introduced themselves, and Jeff was like, my God, yes, of course. And then throughout the rest of the evening, he saw Jeff Goldblum introduce himself to every single person. My God, yes, of course. And I think that's so amazing, and I'm going to do that at every dinner party I
That
go
is
to.
amazing.
Anyways, continue.
Words to live by. Last thing from Laguna Seca, and pretty much the weekend was, it must have been Saturday. I went to Laguna Seca like very late in the day, both days.
Yeah.
Like basically the racing was almost done, and
Yeah.
I just came to like look for light and shadows. And I had kind of busy days both days. There wasn't a Genesis function at the track, so the end of the day, racing stops at 6 p.m. on Saturday. And then another car goes on track because they do sometimes like private, like not private, they do like demos and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm by this like wall in the pits, and I asked this guy, like a random guy, I'm like, what? Because people are lining up to watch whatever's on track, and I was like, oh, what's out there? What's on track? Because it was loud and fast. And he's like, oh, the Audi, the new R8 GT2 like concept. And without thinking and without hesitating, I was like, oh, I just saw that car driving at Spa.
Oh my God.
Because they did a demo with that at Spa like
You're
3 weeks
that
ago. I was that
person.
person. But
Ugh.
it was great. And now I'm that person again by sharing that
Apparently,
anecdote.
Jesus.
But yeah, I think that is most of it. I did get to go to San Francisco on I had an extra day
Yep.
at the end. So I went up to San Francisco to visit my friend Ryan on Monday. And he was like, do you want to, he's like, we could go up to like Marin Headlands and just like get a drink up there, like go like just walk around the beach or something. And we took his NC Miata
Nice.
and drove on like a really incredible road. It's
Yeah.
pretty it's pretty cool how close, we went over the Golden Gate and then
Yep.
we're on this amazing road, super twisty. It was
They have
like
such good roads up there.
yeah, and that NC Miata is so good. I mean,
Yeah.
I've driven them before, but I just forget how good that one is. And
Yep.
just the rev matching.
Yeah.
Like I never did it badly. I
Yeah.
rev matched absolutely perfectly every single time, and I attribute that entirely to the car.
And that's the 2-liter.
Yeah.
2-liter 4, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just great. It was such an awesome car. I was able to push it and match revs and just
That
feel totally natural in the car
Yeah.
instantly. It's like, oh,
That's a good car.
it is a good car.
Yeah.
The ND is obviously amazing, but these are
There's something different.
these are close enough, that
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not accustomed to driving a Miata every day, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So it's a good car.
How was the Nissan Frontier that you had as a rental?
It was
Extremely truck?
It was truck, yeah.
Yeah.
The worst things about it were like not having CarPlay.
Wait, did it have a screen though?
It had a screen but no nav, so
Oh.
with no CarPlay, I had to put my phone like against the gauges to
for-
navigate because I'm constantly navigating
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. That was too bad, and also the turning radius was just abysmal.
Here's the thing, because we've been having a lot of jokes about this lately. Just this truck in particular, because people ask for, and we're transitioning here a little bit, but a good basic, utilitarian truck, and this is it.
This is
But there's something kind of emotionless about it, and I think in part it's because it's styled like a 2005 Sentra.
yeah. Well, so I have a screenshot. This truck I think was introduced in like 2004.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Exactly.
This
as
generation.
it is?
This generation.
Holy shit. Okay.
Because I was joking, it was 06, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it was earlier.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
If only, you know what, there would probably be it would be less of a downer, I think, if they maybe, of course this is Nissan, so they're going to do it, but like apply some sort of retro styling to it. If they're not going to change it for years on end, at least just make it a styling exercise, and it'll just be, I mean, they have a history of cool
Right.
small trucks.
Well, and a history of like cool, weird retro cars.
Yeah, why not make this one thing that, it's going to be around forever, although they're all Nissans are kind of around
All Nissans,
forever
yes.
anyways. It's just kind of bewildering that they've just relegated it to basically rental fleet status as far as like upgrading goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not totally impressed, but it was that turning radius that was
Yeah.
really frustrating.
Yeah, and I was just in Seattle, speaking of rental cars, and I had an A220, and I had to think about that for a second because when I
You
got,
called it an A45 earlier.
I called it an A45. I rented from Six, and honestly, Six, if you're not renting from Toro, Six probably is the best next go to because it's a regular car rental agency.
It's just limited. Like I don't think it's in Texas. It's only
It's not in
Austin.
Texas.
It's in Austin.
It's in Austin. It's in LA. Not in Portland, in Seattle. So I went up to Seattle. Anyway, so when I just want like a regular rental car, I'll rent from them because
The same price, but you
Same
might get
price.
something good in the
yeah,
lottery.
yeah, exactly. Even though I always end up with a Volvo of some kind, which I won't go into because Kevin hates it when I go into Volvos. But
You went into that Volvo for an extended amount of time.
whatever. So yeah, I ended up with an A220, which is a replacement for
You should have
the
parked it
CLA.
next to a Corolla just so I could see
so
the
bland.
proportions.
I can't
Exactly
believe
the
it.
same proportions.
I cannot believe how bland this car is.
Especially because I know it wouldn't sell here, but the A hatch is
I-
cool.
Actually, when the counter representative, whatever you want to call them, told me like, oh, okay, so we've got you in an A220. I was like, oh, the hatchback. And then I remembered, oh, we don't get the hatchback. And it was just the replacement for the CLA, which the CLA was not pretty, but at least it was unique looking. And this, they've toned it down, and it looks like a Corolla. It looks
Yeah.
like a standard issue rental compact car, and I couldn't believe like this was a premium class car. I mean, it was fine, it had nice touches to it, but for the most part, it was just very car.
Was the interior better than like the CLA, GLA?
No, surprisingly, I think it's a downgrade.
Really?
A little bit, yeah. Especially because the car the interior has been designed for the top spec, and then they water down
Okay.
like say for instance the dashboard, because now Mercedes does this like 24-inch wide double screen thing, and if you don't opt for whatever that is, premium tech package where you have like these 12-inch screens, you instead get these like, I'm guessing here, but like these small square 7-inch screens that
Yeah.
float in 24 inches of shiny plastic bezel, and
Oh,
it just feels so cheap.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was fine. It went. It had like modes. It had heated seats. So that's all I really cared about.
Yeah.
But I don't understand buying that car now. Like CLA was an interesting proposition because it was literally like the revival of the baby Benz thing, even if it, was not.
Right.
It didn't live up to the legacy. But this truly is just a compact car.
Because
You
this
might
was
as well.
seen as better, like a step up when it was
Yeah,
launched.
in
but
theory, but
people are just excited by new cars no matter
yeah,
what, especially
exactly.
certain people.
Oh yes, well, here's the thing: no one should buy this car. Just buy a nice Mazda 3. Buy a top of the line Mazda 3. Probably the same price. You get more features, and it's
Yeah.
probably a nicer interior. So
Yeah.
that is my take on my rental A220 4MATIC. So
Was it formatted?
it was 4MATIC.
Wow.
Yeah. So
How was that top fourth gear on the highway?
the fourth gear was amazing.
Well, you only drove it for 50 miles, you said.
I only drove it 50 miles because of the vacation setup, but
Yeah.
anyways.
I'm going to transition to a question we have.
Go
but
on.
I was thinking also, in Monterey around, you see
Yes.
a lot of everything, and
Yes.
the modern McLarens kind of get, overseen, and also GT3s and stuff. And it's just, it's very, it's odd because you see so many G3s and so many colors, and most of them are paint to sample and GT2s. And it's like, I don't know if there is a spec of GT2 that's actually like that would be cool in Monterey that week, because it's not special at all.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
new. It's so so. I
Yeah.
think of that type of car.
Yep.
I think a speedster would be cool, like a interesting color speedster, or
Yep.
any speedster would still be special in that
Yeah.
company. And I think a GT3 Touring in like a muted color would always be classy.
Oh, totally.
That I think the GT3 Touring is just so cool. I did see
I
a
did
few.
too.
I saw like a purple one that was like dark, like amethyst.
Yeah.
Amethyst.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good color.
So that would be cool.
I
I
love
was
that.
kind of fantasizing about if you could get a GT3 Touring in, I think it's called Geyser Gray, which is the 50th anniversary color. I don't know if they would do
kind
that
of
for you.
Almost nardy.
Kind of beige.
Yeah.
Like kind of tan.
Okay.
But like a gray tan.
Yeah.
Not quite chalk.
Yeah.
I did see a chalk and or crayon, I don't know the difference, GT3 wing one on
What
the
do
way
you-
over here.
What do you think? I mean, like that versus a 911R. Like, one, what do you think is cooler?
I think GT3 Touring, because I think the 911R, like, I hate so much of what it
Well,
represents.
what it became. But
Yeah.
if I had a choice between like if means were there and I could choose between a 911R and a GT3 Touring, I'd probably get a 911R. But I love I'm infatuated with the idea of the GT3 Touring.
I prefer like the fascia and the engine of the GT3
Sure,
Touring, because
sure.
it's the next generation.
Yeah.
And it is superior. So
I wish that, I mean, it had no chance of not blowing up into the thing that it did, the 911R.
Yeah.
But yeah, the GT3 Touring is now, for me, the ultimate like 911
Yeah.
to have.
also, I think a lot of the 911Rs have stripes, and that's not something I
Yeah,
like.
and
It's
here's the
hard
thing.
to have
Here's
that
the
done
thing
right.
is that they should have stripes. And when you don't get stripes, what was the point, I guess? Because some people will either have the stripes removed or somehow order them without stripes. Have you ever seen that? I've seen like a couple of them listed for sale where
I'm sure I have,
Yeah.
but I can't recall.
yeah. Anyways, but
Yeah.
I'm on board with
It
all
did get
that.
me thinking of like what is, as you would say, an aspirational car.
Yeah.
And I think the most aspirational car, I'm going to say right now, and this connects to
Yes.
something we talked about before, is I think like an orange Gallardo, like the first early Gallardo.
Yeah.
I think it's so aspirational. It's a good car, and I loved them when they were new. But I think if you're driving around Monterey, it just looks like I am very thirsty.
That's
like,
bad, yeah.
It's very flashy, and everyone knows it's old, and it's not old enough to be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, and so it got me thinking, and I don't know if this is true, but that's another factor that we never talked about when we talked about when was there ever a cheap Miura, and was there ever a time where a Miura was like aspirational, like even for a 2-week period in like 1976?
I'm sure.
You know?
Like when Miros were like 15, 20 grand. I don't know if they were actually that low, but
yeah. When every car of note was a wedge.
Because it was an old Lamborghini. It was an old thing. I mean, it's just the same thing with Porsche.
And it was such an old generation.
Yeah.
You know? And so there had to be a time where a Miura just looked like, oh, you're like the guy in the orange 2004 Gallardo at Monterey.
But a lot of these cars, I mean, I wonder if the Countach even had its... I mean, it was Countach probably was never like bottom of the barrel, but like I'm sure there was a time when you could buy one for like 30, 40 grand, and it was just the old Lamborghini. And I guess that would have been, I don't know. Maybe the Countach was such an icon that it survived that.
It was pretty limited. I mean, the Miura was too, but the Countach, because it was around for so long.
Yeah. But same thing with old Ferraris, like a GTO at one point may have been, I mean, it always valued, I suppose, but like maybe just revered by a small enough, group of people where like values just weren't there.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. But aspirational cars. What about like? Well, so you're going into the supercar territory. Although the Gallardo is now probably 50, 60 grand. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. And I do
range?
like the design. I mean, I love the facelift Gallardo, probably the best. 2008.
I agree with you.
When it didn't have pink taillights.
On that, and we're talking about like in that range, and probably Aston Martin's like a DB7 is in that range, if not cheaper actually. It's probably in the upper 30s at this point. Is probably really an automatic DB7 is probably.
You think that's aspirational?
Maybe.
No, because it's not. No, I mean an AMV8 all day long. I'll say that's aspirational. But the type of person that's buying it just for the badge is also not buying a DB7 because it's such a like old man's car.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Like
something that's like cheap and flashy. I mean, definitely our Carreras and SCs were probably aspirational in like 1995.
Yeah, anything that was forward dated.
Yeah.
Which like those were to 993s. And beyond. What about like normal? Like, what is the aspirational car of today that's accessible? Not talking about special cars, I guess, or quote unquote special cars. But like, you put in this, by the way, your line item is not non-Infinity aspirational car.
Aspirational. Yeah, Infinity.
I mean, that the whole brand is
the entire brand
aspirational. As is.
I literally. I went to the gym today and. I only mention the place because I feel like that factors in. I was parked like sandwiched between absolutely trashed like a G37 and a G30 in a G35 sedan.
And I hate that we're being a little bit snobby, but of course, but still, it's true. Like for the money, I don't. However, it works out that you end up in an Infinity in the same way that you end up in an Acura, or that. You could also be in a Genesis, but you're not. I bet you Genesis buyers are extremely discerning. And I'm not even just promoting our friend's brand that he works for, but that you probably have someone who just wants a discreet quality experience.
Yeah, a good car that's well made. That's not about the badge. That's not about presenting something.
The thing is apparently Acura and Infinity are still badges to wear.
Yeah.
As someone who is supposedly up and coming.
I think with certain people, like the coupes, especially like the G37 coupe, was seen as a cool car with certain people at a certain time.
Oh yeah, but that's the Q30 or G35 was a good car.
Yeah,
like that was cool, and I don't think necessarily aspirational, maybe a little bit, but at some point they crested over that. Maybe it was when. The models should have died and they didn't, and they kept selling them at the same price, and people were still buying them. Yeah, meaning that they proved that all you need is a badge.
Yeah,
but even Mercedes, like I mean, I'll argue that the A220 is an aspirational car because it's no nicer than a, domestic or Japanese brand compact car, but people will buy it.
Right.
And option it
Is
with
that your
a
pick?
light up star. No.
I'm gonna say Ghibli all day long. I'm gonna say Ghibli or like an
Yeah.
'05 Range Rover.
No. You know what? I don't see Range Rovers as aspirational, even though they're like plentiful in buy here, pay here lots. Only because I don't think they have survived well enough. As in, like, if it's at a buy here, pay here lot, it's sitting on its flattened suspension, not to be purchased.
Yeah.
But I think you're on it with. Oh man, that's hard. I don't know.
I mean, as far as a new car, Ghibli all day
Ghibli
long.
is all day long. Yeah, that's true because that is the least. That's the least special.
My mom will still tell me like, "Oh, I saw a Maserati," because the name is so
name.
special. Because if you grew up,
Oh, what a
if
shame.
you grew up in like
Isn't
older
it?
times, it was like you saw a Maserati like once a year. Like we
Yeah.
grew up in a time where Maserati literally didn't exist.
They didn't exist
for decades.
and then, like,
but people older than us saw Maserati as
And-
like these
yeah,
exotic
and
racing cars,
the-
and then they come back as like rebadged Alphas
Yeah,
things.
and the original new Quattroporte was interesting.
Yeah.
I won't say it was pretty, but it was interesting. And
Yeah.
then now it is just like they sound good,
Mm-hmm.
but they are trash.
yeah.
And I'm sorry.
I
but
would absolutely much rather have an Alpha, which
I would too.
I really like. I like the styling and the performance is
something.
incredible.
That's interesting that Alpha is not an aspirational brand, even though it's probably the most exotic, like the most exotic accessible brand, like
Yeah.
that you could have. It's Italian. It sounds
I think
good.
I think it's all in how they did the execution. Like I think they
Yeah.
did. I mean, obviously the reliability is questionable.
whatever that is, yeah.
Whatever. We're not Consumer Reports here.
but,
but
yeah.
I mean, I think just the way that they've styled the car and they've aimed for high performance
Yeah,
targets, like they
'cause-
actually tried to deliver on what
See,
the brand is about. They've
so
exceeded basically any other
That is
Alpha.
curious. Other than the fact that maybe Infinities to a certain extent aren't as sellable, and so they're discounted. Like you could be in a very basic Alpha sedan, and it will be just as much as an Infinity. Why not go for the Alpha?
Yeah.
Especially if you're leasing or
I mean,
whatever.
I think with certain people, I mean, there's just as there was no Maserati in our childhood, there was also we were car enthusiasts, so we know about Alpha. But I mean,
Right.
there's entirely people that I could do a man on the street at my gym, and no one
Sure.
knew what an Alfa Romeo
Yeah,
was. Whereas Infinity was always a luxury brand
Yeah.
that was maybe seen as less of a dad car than a
Just
Lexus.
accessible. I guess it's
you
just
know?
better than. It's just maybe a better than proposition where, like, depending on your level of car interest, it's not even an economic thing. It's just a. You don't care what you drive. It's better than a Nissan. Just like a Lexus is better than a Toyota. In
But I think for a lot of
brand
people, if you're
theory, not necessarily actually.
Yes, but if you're like a 20 or 9-year-old person that wears muscle shirts, say, there is not a
Edward
there is
Hardy.
not there is not a Lexus that has spoken to you
Yeah.
for 20 years. So there is not something for you. So it's like those cars. It's not a matter of
Okay.
Lexus being better than Infiniti. It's like Infiniti makes a sports coupe. Lexus does
I-
not do that. What is attainable?
I'm gonna revise most aspirational car. Every hardtop cabriolet that was based off of a coupe is aspirational because they do not look good, and no one can argue.
I don't. Terrible and
look
flawed.
good.
Yeah, I don't think it's aspirational.
Really.
I don't think so. I think some people think like in the sense that it's like I'm gonna lose weight next year. It's like I will use this convertible top.
I just think that people think of convertibles like how many convertibles are there in Houston and no one actually uses them because it's stupid to use a convertible in Houston because it's 190 degrees every day. And so you bought it because it looks like the most expensive version of a car that you can buy.
I don't know. I think people just get optimistic with a convertible. Like, oh, this will be cool. I think in practice, especially, I think people that are buying a hardtop convertible, like have 4-door hardtop convertible, like have not, or not 4-door. I mean, say 4-seat hardtop convertible.
I came across a photo that I sent you like years ago. It was a G37 hardtop convertible. They don't call it cabriolet. And the license plate said hard top. And
That is an edge case. That's not normal.
I don't know. I think that was a view into the psyche.
I don't know about that.
Because then you look at like, okay, here's a philosophical question,
Sure.
maybe.
Okay.
Cross Cabriolet,
The
Evoque,
Nissan?
yeah, Evoque, Cabriolet.
Mm-hmm.
All these cars, are they aspirational?
I don't know. I mean, they're just oddballs. It's
They're
hard to see where
oddballs,
they factor in.
and
It
But
almost,
here's the thing: they're expensive.
yeah.
They're like 40 grand. Well, the Cross Cabriolet is 40 grand. I think the Evoque is way more than that. But is that aspirational in the sense that like it was just the most expensive version of a thing that you
No
could
one was
buy.
buying that because it's the most expensive
No,
Murano.
true. Yeah. But convertibles are viewed as exotic and not necessarily as like, oh, I just love open air driving. I think, especially in a southern climate, like that is not true. And I get mad. I get upset. I won't get mad, but I'll get upset when I see it's like reasonably nice weather, and people's convertible tops are like sealed shut with the
Yeah.
AC on blast.
I
Not
mean,
even
that was
windows
me
down.
sometimes when I daily drove a Boxster because I
Yeah.
felt judged. I did feel judged. You know, I realized later, and this is something everyone else knows that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know, is like when you have a convertible, that's the reason most people have a convertible as a
Yeah.
second car, because you can just use it when
Yeah.
you want to. Like if you had a 911 Cabrio as a third car, it
Yeah.
would, actually that'd be okay
Sure.
with me, because you could just use it when it's nice enough to use. That's when you'd use it, and you wouldn't use it other times. But I was daily driving a car, and if it was reasonably nice, I was like, I don't want to bother. I don't want to like deal with this. I don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to leave it in the garage and have gigantic bugs get into it.
Yeah.
Which happened to me.
Which has happened.
So, yeah, I did feel judged, but yeah, I was daily driving a convertible Boxster, and I knew like if it was nice out, like I knew I was being judged.
Yeah.
But when you're daily driving a car, like sometimes you're just not in the mood to put the top down even when it's nice, when you're just commuting.
Maybe, but well, here's I'm coming from a
or
very
not
different
only that,
perspective 'cause-
another thing is like, I think convertibles are terrible on the highway in a
Oh,
city.
yeah. Oh, totally.
Beautiful weather, no matter.
Yeah.
It's so much tire noise from
Yeah.
the F350 next to you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Although
the tire noise. It's
I'm
not
a-
anything else.
I'm a windows down kind of driver. Like I don't mind. I mean, I don't like
You get on the highway twice a year.
whatever.
Okay.
But I open up the panel roof in the wagon any chance I get, even if it's just slightly hot, so long as it's not direct sun. I like the idea of open air driving. I'll never own a convertible.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm still on the idea of, as I am on many ideas, but an E36 M3 Cabriolet I think would be super cool.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it's meant to be a putter around town, kind of
Right.
weekend, whatever. But I maybe that's why I view convertibles as aspirational especially when I see that people aren't using the convertible part of the car, is because any chance I get where it is at least not insanely uncomfortable, I will have the windows down, I'll have the sunroof open, and when I had the Cayman, I missed having a sunroof, like because I like the sensation of, on occasion, glancing to the side and seeing the sky like whiz by me. Like each time we had a Boxster in LA, I'd drop the top anytime
That's
we
LA
got
weather.
I know, whatever, but still. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Also, the sides come up so high on that car.
They do.
That
It's a wind
basically like
deflector.
got a roof no matter what.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna restate, the highway thing is a big thing for me, because if I'm going to go on a highway
Yeah.
in my journey, like when I used to commute downtown,
Yeah.
I really didn't like being in a convertible on the highway.
I didn't
with
mind
the top
that.
down.
I actually kind of like it. I like the roar.
I like when it's at night and there's not as many cars on the road, but
Yeah.
sitting, like, it's just not.
If you're
enjoyable.
driving- yeah.
Especially you go under an overpass.
Yeah.
There's like a couple on I-10 that are even bigger than, even like wider than normal overpasses.
Yeah.
And it gets 4 times as loud when you
Yeah.
go under that, when you hear the roar of every tire and it's all there. I have one more thing. I know we're wrapping up here, but I have one more thing about the
Yes.
transmission, and this is something everyone else probably realized
Oh my God.
recently
Yes.
about dual clutch. But I sort of made this connection because they just announced, it was a couple of weeks
Shifting
ago.
Topics here, yeah.
Switching topics. So the Corvette C8, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes.
They said it's not going to have a manual. Like, I thought, oh, maybe it will have a manual later. And
Yeah.
they said, basically, there's not room in the pedal box.
Yeah.
The way that it is cab forward design.
Yep.
There is not room in the pedal box for a third pedal.
Yeah.
And then the Supra, they said the same thing.
Yep.
And it just made me realize that, like, it's just happened. It's all happening. It's all happening very fast where
Sure.
the manual is going away. And when we had our purgatory of SMG transmissions, we didn't know how good we had it because that was basically the same transmission with a different actuation. So it was relatively inexpensive to develop both.
Yep.
To have a
Yep.
manual and an SMG, and
Sure.
now it's like dual clutch. Like you would make a choice, and
Well-
it's like there's no going back. I really thought with the Supra, and I'm not like complaining, but I really thought they're gonna announce a manual in 2 years because they hinted at it.
Well, you would think because like the Supra was a car enthusiast targeted exercise, in which case you shouldn't worry about whether it's the fastest, et cetera, et cetera. You'll just have a manual option because the purists want it. But so you posed that question about whether DCT dual clutch transmissions are making manuals go away, and then I added like, and does it matter? And I mean, like, I have 2 manual cars, and I enjoy ideally one. I enjoy puttering around town with a manual, but also I understand too the move away from, especially if you are in a sports car that is meant to be fast and track oriented. It's different if it's meant to be like a fields car,
But I
a
don't think the
sensification
Supra
car.
is that fast. It's not.
I agree.
It's not as much
Okay,
power.
I'll say
as
it's weird that the Supra may not come with a manual.
And the
ever.
Corvette is naturally aspirated, and which it would really benefit from a manual. I mean,
Yeah.
if you say, oh, I want a manual for a Ferrari 488 with like 700
I'll
turbocharged
say
horsepower,
on
that's
the Corvette
not
front,
enjoyable.
I'll say I bet you it's because it's just cheaper. It's how they make their price point.
Yeah, it is. It is
because they only have to produce and engineer one transmission.
well, like
now.
the Alpine, I'm totally blanking. It's the 220
A110, or, yeah.
A110. It's they basically said like we don't have a lot of budget here. It's one or the other, and
people
are going to buy
at the end
the
of the
DCT.
day.
And
Right.
so I'm like, okay, but and I think with all of them, they faced that choice. But it just, we all bitched about the SMGs and the actuated clutches.
Yeah.
And then when they went away, it's like, oh, that our manuals sunk with that ship.
Yeah.
Because it's not coming back, and it's not. I don't know. It's just crazy. I don't know how
manuals now-
anyone can look at what Porsche does and then say
Yeah.
we're going to abandon that.
Manuals now, I mean, like, it'll never work out financially, but like could be a added option that you pay extra for because the manufacturer has to pay for the added engineering involved with it.
Right.
And I say, I don't want to be boxed in, like, I mean, manuals are good. Manuals are good. Like, they enhance the car driving experience, depending, obviously, on what you're trying to do with it. I mean, like,
I drove a bad manual recently. I'll talk to you offline about it.
but, a McLaren on a track with a fast shifting transmission, it allows you to be more of a hero. It allows you to elevate your skill in theory because you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
third
when you get to
pedal.
a certain performance threshold, you don't want to take your hands off the wheel. Like, I get that. But I mean, in a Corvette, in the base Corvette with less than 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated, it's not like you have boost that's coming on. Like, it would benefit from a manual for driving. I mean, if why have a sports car if you don't want to feel anything?
Well, that's the question. I think that's the question of the ages now. Like, what is the point of a sports car? What is with current technology? Most cars now have electric power steering. Most cars have faster than you can feel acceleration. Like, in the sports arena, like, we're kind of moving into this robotic territory of, like, slowly, like, the way that we sense things, it can only go so fast. And cars are going so fast now.
You and I are seen as curmudgeons because we're not welcoming this age of
I know.
faster number cars.
And you know what? If you want to drive, a car from a video game, like if your car is just so freaking fast that you can't even think about it, but it doesn't matter because your car would drive for you, basically.
And that's totally cool. And you can have
That's fine.
that. You can have those cars, but like we always thought there'd still be stuff like the Miata and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the scale of GT, if you have a sliding scale of a McLaren 720S and a Miata, I think the Supra is firmly closer to the Miata as far as performance level.
I would agree.
For it to not have a manual,
I would agree.
it's like,
and
what is the
I
point?
wonder if the point, or what it was, is I wonder if the Z4 has.
I think the Z4 is a manual in Europe with the small engine.
Okay.
They have a 4-cylinder that we're not getting, and you can get a manual.
I was curious about that, and maybe again that it was a price point thing. Like, the Supra couldn't be an $80,000 car, and so in order to make it work, they just had to suck it up and make it auto only.
Yeah, well, I think also the manual, like the 4-cylinder Supra in Europe has less power, like 5 less horsepower than the BRZ. So I think that was a stumbling block.
Yeah, that is a bit of an issue. But yeah, it is killing it. Doesn't matter obviously for manufacturer profitability. It does not matter.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get into a whole manual debate, but I just thought it was interesting that like we all complained about the SMGs, and the SMGs basically probably extended the manual for longer because it's like SMG was so close to a manual.
Yeah, it's an automated manual,
and now that the automated manuals are gone, it's like that was the last ship.
Yeah, the last automated manual that mattered to me was the Saab Sensonic clutchless manual.
We should find one and test drive it.
I would love to, but they're all like ash in a landfill by now. I am certain of that. But whether
was that a 3-matic?
Yeah, I think it was a 3-matic. What was Sporto-matic? Was that 3 or 4?
I have no idea. We'll look this up. We'll put it in the notes.
But
it'll be in the notes. If you scroll down, you'll see how many speeds Sporto was.
But summary is that DCT is making manual they're going away just because manual transmissions are just an added expense to engineer for, and now it doesn't matter because they're not more fuel efficient, they aren't faster, and it's not marketable except to people like us
or those people who paid $1 million for 911Rs.
Yeah,
I don't know how you ignore that, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like the ultimate, like to, I mean, and they kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there, where we're probably in the last generation of people who are going to value that type of driving experience so much that you will pay that much to just have that in a modern car, because it probably isn't going to matter as much in the future. So anyways, not to get nostalgic, because we are still here in the present and we both have manual cars that we can enjoy. They go slow as hell.
Yes,
all of them.
I drove the Speedster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was a manual and it was fast.
Yeah. But our own personal cars are slow as hell.
Yes.
And my automatic, the one automatic I have, is also slow as hell, and as is yours. So
yes,
we live life in these.
My automatic is a CVT.
Awful. Mine's a 4-speed with.
You got 4-matic.
Mine's a 3-speed with.
Is it?
Oh, I think it's a 4-speed, but I think 4th is overdrive. Okay. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of New for 96. Follow us on Instagram at
New for 96. Send us an email. New for 96 spelled out at Gmail.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.